The settlement papers were barely signed before the war of words exploded into a total PR disaster that has the entire industry talking. Blake Lively's team tried to claim a resounding victory, but Justin Baldoni's lead attorney, Brian Friedman, was absolutely fuming behind the scenes. He didn't just disagree with her version of events, he tore their narrative apart in front of the world, exposing what he calls a desperate PR stunt designed to mask a total legal defeat. The silence from the Lively camp was deafening, and the reputation of Hollywood's favorite golden girl was suddenly in freefall. For months, the public was led to believe this was a landmark battle for justice and female empowerment. Blake Lively positioned herself as a shield for the vulnerable, a revolutionary voice standing against a supposed smear campaign. But the moment the notice of settlement hit the record, the curtain was pulled back. People realized the victory parade her team was trying to sell didn't match the cold, hard facts of the court documents. The settlement wasn't a win for her activism. It was a strategic exit from a situation that was becoming increasingly impossible for her to win. The most shocking part of this entire saga is the sheer volume of claims that never even made it to a jury. Out of 13 initial claims, a staggering 10 were thrown out by the judge before the settlement was even signed. This included every single allegation of sexual harassment and every claim of defamation. When her team speaks about validation, they conveniently leave out the fact that the court had already gutted the core of her case. It's hard to claim you've won the war when the judge has already dismantled nearly 80% of your arsenal in the early rounds. Brian Friedman didn't hold back when he addressed the media, and his tone was icy enough to freeze a Hollywood red carpet. While Blake's side was busy crafting emotional statements about standing up for survivors, Friedman was focused on the legal reality. He pointedly reminded everyone that this represented a total victory for the Wayfarer parties, not a compromise. He essentially accused the other side of living in a different reality, one where a dismissed lawsuit somehow translates into a moral triumph. The contrast between the two camps couldn't have been more jarring for the fans. The internet has become a graveyard for celebrity PR strategies, and this case is the latest casualty. Fans are no longer just skimming headlines, they are reading the actual legal filings, and they are exhausted by the spin. There is a growing sense of frustration over celebrities trying to rewrite reality while everyone watched the drama unfold in real time. The sentiment online has shifted from curiosity to genuine fatigue as people realize the narrative they were fed was a carefully constructed image management campaign, rather than a genuine quest for truth and accountability. One of the biggest points of contention involves the narrative that this was never about the money. Blake's team hammered this point home, insisting her goals were purely about exposure and protection. However, legal watchers noticed something very suspicious quietly sitting in the background. Even after the settlement, Blake reportedly refused to drop the motion for attorney fees. This 47.1 fees issue has people side-eyeing her entire moral crusade, asking why the pursuit of millions in legal costs is still on the table if the financial aspect was truly as irrelevant as she claimed. Timing is everything in Hollywood, and the optics of Blake's recent behavior have been described as catastrophically tone-deaf. Just hours after the lawsuit was dropped, she was seen posing at the Met Gala, surrounded by the extreme wealth of the elite. To the average viewer, it was a jarring transition. One moment she was supposedly embroiled in a devastating legal battle over serious allegations, and the next she was laughing in a designer gown under flashing lights. The disconnect between her public persona as a victim and her reality as a billionaire star has never been more obvious. We can't forget the infamous Instagram slides that started this firestorm of skepticism. When the judge originally dismissed the majority of her claims, Blake didn't go quiet. Instead, she posted cherry-picked sections of the ruling to make it look like she was winning. It was a masterclass in selective editing, designed to mislead her followers into thinking her allegations had been validated. But the internet remembers everything, and it didn't take long for legal experts to point out that she was ignoring the 10 claims that had just been tossed into the trash by the court. This morning's statement from Blake's attorneys was the final straw for many critics. They claimed the settlement proved that Justin Baldoni and his associates faced personal liability for abusing power. They even suggested that by settling, the defendants admitted her concerns deserved to be heard. It was an incredibly bold attempt to flip the script, but it backfired almost instantly. Critics were quick to point out that acknowledging someone has a right to speak is light years away from admitting that what they are saying is actually true or based on any objective facts. There is a very specific reason why settlements happen right before things get really messy in a courtroom. Rumors have been swirling for weeks that Blake's side was facing major trouble if this actually went to trial. We're talking about potential inconsistencies in testimony and behind-the-scenes problems that could have been exposed under oath. By settling now, she avoids a public cross-examination that could have been even more damaging to her brand. It wasn't a victory of conviction. Many see it as a desperate escape from the risk of a public and embarrassing legal loss. Brian Friedman's response wasn't just a legal rebuttal, it was a public execution of a narrative he clearly finds offensive. He flat out stated that their side believes Blake settled because she knew she was eventually going to lose the entire case. It's a harsh, uncompromising take that cuts through the flowery, emotional language used by the Lively camp. Friedman isn't interested in the social symbolism they are trying to sell to the press. He's looking at the scoreboard, and according to him, the score is 0 for Lively and a total win for his clients. The gloves are completely off. For over a year, Blake Lively has been positioning herself as a champion for women who lack resources and power. She didn't just want to be an actress in a dispute, she wanted to be a symbol, but that branding choice has created a massive trap for her. If this was truly about standing up for the voiceless, critics are asking why she walked away before a jury could actually hold anyone accountable. If you claim to be a revolutionary leader, you don't usually sign a non-disclosure agreement and disappear into the night once the legal fees get too high and the pressure mounts. Legal commentators are jumping back into the fray to remind everyone that the court had already done the heavy lifting before this settlement occurred. The majority of the case was essentially dead on arrival. When your most serious allegations are dismissed for lack of evidence or legal standing, your leverage disappears. This wasn't a settlement between two equal parties. It was a settlement where one side was already standing on a collapsing floor. The resounding victory narrative isn't just spin. According to many experts, it's a complete fabrication of the legal reality. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this entire saga is how it spilled over into the lives of ordinary people. YouTubers and online creators who were simply covering the case found themselves mentioned in legal filings. There are allegations that Blake's team was actively trying to gather information on people discussing the lawsuit online. This kind of legal intimidation is terrifying for creators who don't have a team of high-priced lawyers to protect them. It turned a celebrity feud into something that felt like a direct attack on independent media and regular people. The atmosphere became so toxic that some creators felt like they were living in a thriller. Imagine waking up to find that strangers online think you're part of a coordinated, paid smear campaign against a Hollywood star. The level of paranoia surrounding this case was off the charts. People were being accused of taking secret payments just for pointing out the inconsistencies in Blake's story. It shows how far the PR machine will go to protect a brand, even if it means letting regular creators get harassed in the digital crossfire of a billionaire's legal battle. We have to talk about the power couple dynamics at play here. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds aren't just actors. They are a billion-dollar brand built on being relatable and funny. This lawsuit has poked a massive hole in that flawless image. For years, they were considered untouchable, the golden couple of the industry, but this drama has exposed a side of their operation that feels much more calculated and ruthless than the down-to-earth persona they project. The branding is cracked, and the public is starting to see the machinery behind the carefully curated smiles. Even the most dedicated critics are starting to sound like they've had enough. After 18 months of headlines, leaks, and theatrical statements, the public is suffering from outrage fatigue. People aren't even angry anymore. They're just tired of the games. You can hear it in the voices of commentators who have followed every step of this case. There's a sense of relief that it's finally over, not because justice was served, but because the constant noise of the PR circus is finally starting to fade. It's a sad end to what was supposed to be a massive story. Despite the settlement, the story isn't actually finished because of that lingering attorney fees motion. It's like a ghost haunting the resolution of the case. As long as that request is alive, the argument over whether this was truly about money will continue to rage. It's the one piece of evidence that contradicts everything Blake's team has said about her motivations. If the goal was peace and moving forward, why keep the door open for a massive payday? It's a question that her high-powered PR team still hasn't been able to answer convincingly for the public. The era of blindly believing polished celebrity statements is officially dead. This case proved that modern audiences are savvy enough to look past the lighting and the makeup. They are comparing timelines, checking body language, and analyzing court documents for themselves. Blake's team likely underestimated how much the public would dig into the details. They thought they could sell a victory through a few well-placed quotes, but the internet did the homework and found a very different story buried in the fine print of the legal rulings and the judge's dismissals. In contrast to the loud and performative nature of the Lively camp, Justin Baldoni has stayed remarkably quiet, letting his legal team do the talking. This restraint has actually worked in his favor as the public grows tired of the non-stop PR spin. While one side looks like they are trying too hard to win the narrative, the other side looks like they are simply trying to get back to their lives. It makes the abuser of power label that Blake's team tried to stick on him feel increasingly desperate and unsupported by the actual facts of the case. People notice who is shouting. There is nothing the internet hates more than a performance that feels fake. The moment audiences feel manipulated, they turn cold instantly. Every selective Instagram post and every dramatic media leak started to feel like a strategic move on a chessboard rather than a genuine expression of pain. This performative aspect is what ultimately turned the tide against Blake. When you try to use serious social issues as a shield for a personal legal dispute, you risk alienating the very people you are trying to win over. Trust is hard to build and very easy to burn away. At the end of the day, settlements are a part of life in Hollywood. They are often the easiest way out of a messy situation that threatens everyone's bottom line. But because Blake Lively chose to elevate this into a crusade, she robbed herself of a quiet exit. She made the stakes so high that anything less than a total courtroom victory looks like a failure to the people watching. She wanted the crown of a martyr, but settled for the convenience of a dismissal, and that's a trade-off that her audience is having a very hard time accepting as they look at the wreckage. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a wake-up call for the entire entertainment industry. The era of the untouchable celebrity is over, replaced by a world where every PR move is scrutinized by millions of amateur detectives. Blake Lively will continue her career, and Ryan Reynolds will keep building his empire, but the mask has definitely slipped. We've seen the calculated strategy behind the charm, and we've seen how quickly a narrative can crumble when it meets the reality of a courtroom. In the end, the only real victory was for the truth.